Hi, so in the last video we were talking about arrays and just like broad stuff about them, but in this one we're going to actually be talking about how to create an array. So the first thing you need to do is, well, let's think about how do you make an integer. You say int, you have the type, you have the name. I'm going to call this Bob. Actually, I'm not going to call this Bob, I'm going to call this X. The name of the variable, which is X, and then I have a value. Let's do 50. That's how you make an integer variable with a value. You have the type, the name equals the value. So when we make an array, it's the same sort of thing. We have the type, we have the name, and we have the value. So I'm going to copy this over here. So let's start with the type. What type is an array? Well, there are actually two components for this. You have the syntax that says, I'm creating an array, which are the brackets. So anytime you see those brackets, you're telling Java, I'm making an array. And you have the type of thing stored in that array. So for us, it could be int, right? Oops. So we have an array of integers, also called an int array. Now, this is just the data type, right? What other things could we make? What other data types? We have chars, we have booleans, right? All sorts of stuff. Of course, this wouldn't work, but you can use any data type on the left-hand side of these brackets. You could make an array of booleans. You could make an array of chars. You could make an array of strings. So notice, they don't have to be primitive types in order to make an array out of them. String is an object. You can make an array of objects. Every single index has its own object, but I believe we will get into that in a little bit. Yes. Yep. Not in this video. So let's talk about the name now. So I'm going to change this back to int. I'm going to get rid of this. Int x equals 50. We have the name of the variable. We could say like my nums. We're saving my numbers into here, a whole bunch of numbers. And then we have equals, the value. So for a regular integer, this is literally the number 50 that we're saving into it. We have one number and one value. For an array, we don't put in any values yet. In fact, what we have to do is we first have to create an array, right? We need to make an array that's full of integers, and then we can start putting things inside of them. So the way that we do this is the same way that we make an object. We say, Java, we're making a new array of integers, a new int array, has to be the same type as over here. And remember how when we were making object, we use parentheses? For arrays, it's always brackets. It's kind of special, and it might seem a little odd at first, but it makes reading it a lot easier. And so right here, we also need some size, okay? Inside of these brackets on the right-hand side, we say, let's make 40 values, 40 integers. So this part actually creates an array with 40 spots. And this stuff on the left is just a variable that holds some array. Remember, when we're making a new one, we have to specify how big it is. When we're making a variable, we're just saying, hey, there's going to be some array here. And you could do something just like this. You could just say, I'm going to make an array at some point. Here's the variable that I'm going to save it into. It's going to hold some sort of array. Here you go. And not make a new array. But this part actually makes the new array. So I'm actually going to make this a little smaller. I'm going to make this a size of 2 to show that I can save 2 things into it. So right now, I have, let's visualize this. I have my array, and it has 2 spots. all right? I didn't save in anything into them yet, so they are default values. The default value for an integer is 0, so they both have 0 saved into them. So what are the indexes for these? So we have two things, and they start at index 0. So this is index 0, and this is index 1. So if I want to change one of these values, I can say I have to go to my variable, and I say my nums, which is where the array is saved, and I say access my nums at index 0. This will talk about this integer. So now that we're talking about this integer, we can save some number to it. I'm going to save the number 3 to it. Okay. Now, I'm going to print each of them out. Print line. You could do print ln tab and it auto-completes. And in the same way that you could print x, which is our variable up here, you could print my nums. Oops, what did I do? Oh, that's in the bug class. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Okay, I hit run, and we don't get the numbers. You would expect it to print out 0, or I'm sorry, you would expect it to print out 3 and 0, right? Because this is your array. You have 3 saved in the 0th index. Actually, let me change this. You have 3 saved in the 0th index, and you have 0 saved in the next one. But remember, you didn't specify which index. So it gives you the memory location, same as an object. So instead what we have to do is we have to get a specific index. Java, give me the 0th index of my nums, and that will go into our array, and that will pull out that 3, which is the 0th index, right? And that will print 3. If we want to do the next one, we would do 1. That one's still 0, right? Hello? Yep, 3 and 0. Hopefully that makes sense. What else can we do? Oh, we could do something like this. We could do something like my nums at 1 is equal to my nums at 0, right? This will replace my nums at 1 with my nums at 0. So let's think about this. My nums at 1 is going to get the value of my nums at my nums at 0, right? So now this one would become a 3. And if we print these out, perfect. These are the first two. And then we set the first index equal to the 0th index, and we get 3 and 3. Now, there's all sorts of stuff you can do with this. You can do division. You can do multiplication. You can save chars in here, right? You could save entire strings in here, equals a new string array. And then we could say my nums at 1 equals hello. And then I can print line my nums at 1, and we will get hello. Right. At 0, let's see. I didn't save anything into 0, so let's see what the default value for strings are. It's null. It's null. Very nice. Okay. Brief introduction to, oh, last thing. When you call my nums, this essentially changes to whatever number is in there. So here it changes to hello, right? The string hello, it pulls out the value and it replaces itself in the code. Okay. That is the brief intro to array syntax. I will go more in depth in future videos, but that is it for this one. Hopefully you learned something. Let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.